How are you doing?
Very good.
Of the expanding energy field and expanding consciousness of enlightenment, of what people call the Buddha field and what I'm going to be calling the Buddha field in this video, a energy field that is expanding. And as I was in the presence of this master, I could feel the expansion. Everything was larger, everything felt more pushed out, more expanded, more energy. It was even difficult to fully stay conscious in the same way that I usually occupy my consciousness. And this is because an expanding energy field really pushes the limits of the self and the space that you occupy. It expands you. But as it expands you, it also stirs up resistances and things that might be under the surface. Now, this might be something you encounter afterwards, but it's not uncommon to be in this expanding energy field, to be in this Buddha field, and then later to notice, oh, this actually stirred up all these different things in me. So everything you consume puts out a certain energy and frequency, and sometimes it's hard to distinguish what the energy and frequency is, but when it's something that's strong, that's when you can really feel it. And that's when, even if you aren't as potentially sensitive, or maybe you're a bit tired and so you're just not feeling as energetically sensitive, the strength of that energy really, I don't know how to describe it, pushes you. It's like a gust of wind that hits you, and you can actually feel it as the gust of wind is kind of reaching you, kind of getting closer. And that's exactly what happened as Gurudev, the Indian guru I saw, entered the room, or was coming towards the room. Before we even saw him, we felt him. We felt the energy rise. Meeting the enlightened master reminded me of the scene in the anime My Hero Academia, when All Might passes on his power to Midoriya. He passes on One for All, a power.
冠された名は One for All。 そう、一人が力を培い、その力を一人へ渡し、救いを求める声と義勇の心が紡いできた。
なんで僕にそこまで。
We felt the gust of wind strengthen in intensity. And then he entered the room, and it brightened. And I've noticed this not only with him, but when I saw Eckhart Tolle, there's brightness. There's light, energetic light that I can perceive. That's now there in the room. And looking at an enlightened being, there's also something bright about them, and that's actually their aura pushing out this expanding energy. So proximity, right? As he got closer, it increased, right? Until being close to him and being in an open state, it was actually difficult to stay, I guess, conscious in the same way. It was like I was less conscious than usual, or half conscious, because the energy was so intense. And that's the thing about the Buddha field, is your body needs to upgrade itself in order to contain the energy. And that's why it's a slow process to expansion. That's why they say first you need to integrate, then you transcend. You need to integrate the energies. You need to integrate. So it was a very intense experience energetically. Now, during the event itself, it wasn't as intense, and that was because I was further away. But we did do some meditation together, and you still did really feel his presence. You felt the presence in the room. However, the closer you get, the more you feel it, because then you really are in his presence. And actually, this is something I noticed with Eckhart Tolle as well. I felt similar energy, and I actually felt that energy on the way to the ICC, on the way to the theatre that he was talking at. I felt that on the walk over, an increase as I walked, and I got closer to his presence. So the frequency of enlightenment can be transmitted, and what you actually notice is a lot of people get really high off the energy. It gives you a high, right? Because it's giving you a window into the state of consciousness of enlightenment. But remember, it's giving you a window, it's giving you an opportunity to help to cultivate that energy in yourself. But it's not doing it for you. This is where it's important to even differentiate. Following another enlightened being, Vishran, he talks about this. In fact, I was very fascinated to find out that his daughter and his children, despite growing up around him, despite being in his energy field, in his Buddha field all the time, are not enlightened. And so what he likes to say is that enlightenment is, or the Buddha field, gives you a window, gives you an opportunity to help to cultivate that awareness on awareness slightly easier. Because now you have, it's almost like you have training wheels. You can get into that state easily, in an easier fashion, but you can't hold that expansion, can you? You can't naturally hold that expansion until you empty out yourself of everything that's causing you to resist life, that's causing you to not hold that expanded state, not hold that enlightened state. And so the expansion during the time where you are in its presence then results actually in a contraction. Because you go back home, you go back to your life, and you've had that peak experience, but now everything under the surface starts to stir up a little bit. Both energetically, it's moving the darkness out, it's expanding you. It could be energetically, it could be emotionally, it could be mentally. Anything that requires shadow work or even just energy work. And so you can start to see that the frequency of enlightenment is an opportunity, but it's up to you to choose what you want to get out of it. Because you can be in the present, you can get a high, you could get a kick out of it, and then you can go on to your regular life. And, nothing could change. Or maybe you'll have a bit of energy shift, but it's not the same. I think this is where it's maybe a bit important to caution people, because there are many people that fall into the guru worship category. They worship the guru, they put him on a pedestal, they think that it's a state that is unachievable by them, and they also, by doing that, it's also actually them potentially lacking accountability in the fact that there are things that they need to let go of to continue that experience of expansion. And so even in the original Buddhist text, there was a guy that the Buddha, that would follow the Buddha around. I forgot his name. I think it might be Ananda. And with this guy, he did not become enlightened until after the Buddha's death. It was only until the Buddha passed away that he became enlightened? One of the reasons is that he was very attached to the Buddha. He was very attached to him. Because he would look after him. He would, from a young age, he would basically be his servant. And even after he became a monk, he was still looking after the Buddha. So that's a place where I think caution may be required. Just thinking about and realizing, okay, you can be in the Buddha field 24 hours around an enlightened being, like Vishrant's children, but not be enlightened. Very interesting, right? It's very interesting. So it's not just being in the presence, there's something more. There's something more that's required. I think that's so fascinating. So yeah, fascinating stuff. And just in recap, I just want to say, this Buddha field, it's an expanding energy field. And we all have the capacity to experience it, to embody it for ourselves. And being in the presence of a master is like passing a flame from torch to torch. It allows you to grow that spark in yourself, but it's not a quick fix. It's about you allowing or using that opportunity to help to cultivate that awareness on awareness that results in that Buddha field being created. It's about shedding the darkness and bringing out the shadows in oneself to the surface. And any sort of expansion does that. And finally, as you expand, things will rise to the surface that will make you contract. This is why Vishrant doesn't allow people to be around him for too long, because they feel high for his energy for some time, and then they actually contract, and then they actually have a dark night. And so that's really uncomfortable and difficult for a lot of people, to be around him for too long. That's something interesting, right? Now, I don't think anyone's really talked about this as far as Indian gurus go, because there's a lot of dogma around it. And the whole, how this exactly works, what this energy is. I notice it's not really talked about. Like, people say, oh, this energy, this presence, they don't really dive into it. So today I just wanted to dive into it a little bit, give a little bit of my thoughts based on not only meeting him and my experience, but then also background knowledge I have in spirituality and talking to other enlightened masters like Vishrant, and also seeing Eckhart Tolle live. So that means I've interacted with 3 frequency holders of this particular energy field, this expanding enlightened consciousness.